Hello everyone, welcome to Quarantine Classes. Those who are new to my channel, please like and subscribe to it. Today we are going to read lesson number 2 from the book First Flight for class 10th, and the name of lesson is Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. Nelson Mandela was a hero who gave freedom to blacks in South Africa. He fought the tradition of apartheid which was followed in South Africa, which believed in racism, where the black people were denied of their fundamental rights also. And he spent most of his life, that is around 30 years, in the South African prison. And he became the first black president of South Africa after that. And this passage, what we are going to read, is a part of autobiography of Nelson Mandela, which is titled Long Walk to Freedom. It is a saga of glorious struggle that the blacks of South Africa waged against the apartheid regime to gain freedom. So now we are going to read the lesson. 10th May dawned bright and clear. 10th of May in 1994 was the day when Nelson Mandela was sworn in as the first black president of South Africa. For the past few days, I had been pleasantly besieged by dignitaries and world leaders who were coming to pay their respect before the inauguration. Inauguration here means the swearing in day on which Nelson Mandela was sworn in as the president of South Africa. And dignitaries and world leaders of different nations had come from far and wide to be a part of his swearing in ceremony. The inauguration would be the largest gathering ever of international leaders on South African soil. Since South African government followed the apartheid, most of the countries of the world did not have a political relationship with South Africa. But now, when that system had been abolished, many leaders had gathered there to be a part of the swearing in ceremony of Nelson Mandela, who would become the first black president of South Africa. The ceremonies took place in the lovely sandstone amphitheatre formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Amphitheatre is an open air space without any roof, and it had got a lot of seating places like it used to be in the ancient Rome and Greece. For decades, this has been the seat of white supremacy. White supremacy here means the people who ruled South Africa were all whites. None of the blacks were given any rights, and they were actually punished for asking for their rights as well. And now it was the site of rainbow gathering of different colors. Now it had been a gathering of different colors because world leaders from all the countries, different parts of the world, had come to be a part of that historic moment, and they had come there in their own traditional attires. That's why it was a rainbow gathering, and nations for installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. So that day, on 10th of May 1994, the first ever non-racial government of South Africa was to be sworn in, and all the world leaders had come there to be a part of that historic moment, that is the swearing in ceremony of Nelson Mandela as the first black president of South Africa. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zinani. So his daughter Zinani was with him. On the podium, Mr. de Klerk was sworn in as the second deputy president. So first of all, the second deputy president was sworn in, and he was Mr. de Klerk. And then Thaubi Mbeki was sworn in as the first deputy president. Then it was my turn. I pledge to obey and uphold the Constitution and to devote myself to well-being of the Republic and its people. So he participated in the swearing-in ceremony and he swore to work for the people of the Republic of South Africa. To the assembled guest and the watching world, I said. So, this is the speech that he delivered after he was sworn in as the first black president of South Africa. Today, all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. So he said that that day, all of them, all the people, those who had been sworn in for the government, they wanted to confer is to give glory and hope to newborn liberty. Newborn liberty is the freedom that the people of South Africa, especially the blacks, have got out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long. Must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud of. So he is comparing the tradition of apartheid, where the blacks were tortured, they were killed, they were beaten up, they were not even given their basic rights of living. He considers or he compares it to a human disaster, which is absolutely extraordinary, and it had lasted for a long time. And now a society has been born that is very good, and everyone should be proud of that particular society. We who were outlaws not so long ago today have been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. They were outlaws. Outlaws means people who are not considered even citizens. They don't have any rights. They don't have any privileges. The blacks were considered as outlaws, but now they had got the privilege to be the host to most of the world leaders. Because of the policy of apartheid, many countries had earlier broken off diplomatic ties with South Africa, but now the leaders of those countries had gathered it there to be a part of that particular moment, that is the swearing in ceremony. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of a country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, and for human dignity. So, Nelson Mandela in his speech is thanking all the international guests who had come there to recognize the people of South Africa, especially the blacks, and to be a part of a common victory for justice, for peace, and for human dignity. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. Emancipation here means freedom from restrictions. Finally, they were free. They had no restrictions imposed on them. They could do whatever they want to do, move around freely in that particular country. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discriminations. So, Nelson Mandela is pledging, along with his government, that they would work forward so that their countrymen could be released from the bondage of poverty, and they should not have any deprivation. They should be satisfied from the suffering, from the inequality of gender, and any other discrimination that was being done there. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience oppression of one by another. So he is saying that never again this is going to happen. That is, one person oppressing or one person suppressing the rights of another, and no one will be able to deprive the other people of their basic rightful benefits. The sun shall never set on the glorious a human achievement. So he says the sun will not set. That means there would not be a night. There would be darkness which will be eliminated, and sunshine would always be there so that people can live their life very happily. Let freedom regain. God bless Africa. So he's saying that freedom should prevail in whole of the country and darkness should be removed. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopter, and troop carrying carriers roared in the perfect formation over the Union building. After a few moments, as soon as the swearing in ceremony was over, they could see that the South African jets and helicopters, they rode in the sky, and it was a spectacular, impressive, and very colorful and attractive display where the perfect formation was formed over the Union buildings. It was not only a display of pinpoint precision and military force, but a demonstration of military's loyalty to the democracy, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. It was not just the precision of the shapes that they were making, but it was also a demonstration of the loyalty of military towards the government. Now that a black president had been sworn in, the army and the military was showing their dedication towards the new government that was fairly and freely elected. Only moments before, the highest generals of South African Defence Force and police, their chest bedecked. Bedecked here means decorated with the ribbons and medals that they had been given. Ribbons and medals from days gone by saluted me and pledged their loyalty. So they had saluted Nelson Mandela since he was the new president, and they had expressed their loyalty towards him. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. And at that point of time, when the military commanders saluted him, he could not forget the days when they would have arrested him for being against the government. Finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of black, red, green, blue, and gold of the new South African flag. It finally, a V shaped pattern was set off by the jets, and the smoke was of different colors: black, red, green, blue, and gold, which were all the colors of the new South African flag. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of the two nations anthem and the vision of white singing Noski Shikilel E Africa and the black singing Die Stem, the old anthem of the Republic. And the most important part of the day was that the two national anthems were sung. One which was sung by the white people, and the other which was sung by the blacks. And the anthem which was sung by the blacks was the old anthem of the Republic of South Africa. Although that day neither groups knew the lyrics of the anthem they once despised, they would soon know the words by heart. And there were two groups of people singing the national anthems of their own, and none of them knew the meanings of the national anthems that were sung by them. But Nelson Mandela was very sure that very soon both the groups will memorize the national anthems of each other by heart. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. In the first decade of 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned people of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned people of their own land. Soon after the Anglo-Boer War, And before Nelson Mandela was born, there was a there was a time when the white skinned people, they suddenly dominated the black skinned people of South Africa, who were also the legal citizens of that particular country, and they formed their supremacy over the black ones. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhuman societies the world has ever known. We all know apartheid was a tradition which was really illegal as well as inhuman, and that started off with the white people feeling that they had got more powers than the blacks, and it was supposed to be one of the harshest and most inhuman societies which were ever formed in the world. Now, in the last decade of the 20th century, and my own 8 decades as a man, that system has been overturned forever and is replaced by one that recognizes the rights and freedoms of all people regardless of the color of their skin. And Nelson Mandela himself was 80 years old, and that system of apartheid was abolished and a new system had replaced, and that system believed in equality of people irrespective of their caste, creed, and color of skin. Everyone had same rights and freedom and duties as well. That day had come through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people, and it was not an easy task to achieve. Many people sacrificed their lives for the day to come, and those sacrifices were unimaginable. People who suffered and suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid, and whatever they had sacrificed, that could never be repaid. The amount of sacrifice, the number of sacrifices that they had given, they could not be counted as well. I felt that day, as I have on so many other days, that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. And Nelson Mandela feels that he has not contributed that much as the patriots before him had contributed. He was just reaping the harvest of the hard work that had been done by the people earlier than him. I felt that day that long and noble line ended and now began again with me. I was pained that I was not able to thank them and they were not able to see what their sacrifices had wrought. Wrought here means brought or achieved. So he was feeling a little bit of pain in his heart because the people who had sacrificed their everything could not see this wonderful day where freedom had been achieved and the blacks had got their rightful positions. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. And the tradition of apartheid, where the people were discriminated on the basis of the color of their skin, had caused a deep wound in the country as well as in the hearts of people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. Profound is very deep and very strong. So Nelson Mandela says that it is very difficult for them to overcome the pain that they had experienced during those times of apartheid. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was it produced many great leaders. What he wants to say, he says, when you are oppressed, when brutal behavior is done to you, something wonderful comes out, and those were the African leaders that fought against the regime of apartheid. Oliver Tambo's, the Walter Seychelles, the Chief Luthiers, the Yusuf Dadus, the Bram Fishers, and Robert So because of a time, these were the men who were very prominent figures in the struggle against apartheid, and these people contributed a lot towards the freedom from the struggle and the freedom from the apartheid. Men of such extraordinary courage, wisdom, and generosity that their like may never be known again. So, all these men, they were very courageous, very wise, and very kind because they sacrificed their life for the social and well being of the people of South Africa, especially the black ones. They did not care about their comfort, they did not care about what is going to happen to them, but they continued to struggle, they continued to fight for the freedom which they would not see, but in years to come, other people would be experiencing. Perhaps it requires such depth of oppression to create such height of character. According to Nelson Mandela, the more you're oppressed, the more courage you get, and you become more stronger in character. And that is what happened with these famous leaders. My country is rich in minerals and gems that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamond. The country of South Africa is very well known for its rich mineral deposits, but according to Nelson Mandela, his country is richest in the people. The greatest wealth of South Africa is the people of South Africa, who are finer and more precious and purer than the best of diamonds. It is true from these comrades in struggle that I have learned the meaning of courage. Time and again, I have seen men and women risk their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attack and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. So he says that people have stood up in history as well. We have seen that people have stood up against oppression, and the more they are oppressed, the better human beings they become, and they have stood up against attack and torture without breaking down and showing us strength and resilience is to recover from any kind of oppression, any kind of hardships, and that ability to come back and that ability to actually retaliate is unimaginable. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Courage actually doesn't mean, according to Nelson Mandela, absence of fear, but it is the ability to win over the fear. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers the fear. A brave person, according to Nelson Mandela, is one who is able to conquer the fear, who is able to be victorious over fear, and not a person who is not afraid of fear at all. No one is born hating another person because of color of skin or his background or his religion. So, as soon as a person is born, he does not have hatred for anything. Let it be the caste, let it be culture, let it be religion, or let it be the skin of another person. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to human heart than its opposite. And those children, when they are born, they are taught to hate other people. For example, here we are talking about the whites. The white children were taught to hate the black children. So Nelson Mandela feels that teaching a person or a child to love another child, it is much easier than teaching that boy or a girl or a person to hate another person, because loving comes more naturally than hatred. Even in the grimmest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. When he and his friends were put in prison, the prison guards used to be very brutal towards them. Whenever they were beating them, whenever they were torturing them. But just for a second, he could see in eyes of some of the prison guards that glimmer of humanity, where he could feel that yes, if given a chance, this person can become a better human being. And whenever he used to see a light of humanity in eyes of any of the guards, he used to be assured, yes, I do have a chance and I can keep going on with my struggle. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but can never be extinguished. So Nelson Mandela says that the good things about a man, humanity in a man, it can be hidden, but it can never be extinguished. It will always keep on simmering, and one day it is going to become a bigger flame. In life, every man has twin obligations. Obligations here mean duties. Obligations to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children, and he has an obligation to his people, his community, and his country. According to Nelson Mandela, there are two duties that every human being has. One duty is towards his family, to his parents, his wife, and children, and the second duty is on a larger scale, and that is for the people of his country, his community, and most important, to his country. In our civil and human society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclinations and abilities. Since we are intelligent enough, we are the ones who decide which obligation we want to fulfill. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of these obligations. In a normal condition, a human being can fulfill both the obligations, that is towards his near and dear ones and towards his country and community as a whole. But in the country like South Africa, and especially with a person being a person of black in color, it was very difficult for him to fulfill those obligations together. In South Africa, a man of color who attempted to live as a human being was punished and isolated. The black people were not even considered humans. They were tortured, they were punished if they wanted to live like a normal human being. In South Africa, a man who tried to fulfill his duty to his people was inevitably ripped from his family and his home and was forced to live a life apart, a twilight existence of secrecy and rebellion. In South Africa, if a person wanted to fulfill his second duty, that is the duty towards his country and his community and his people, that person was taken away from his family. He was removed from his family. He was kept away from his family members, his loved ones, his dear ones, and he was made to feel as if he has committed a crime. And mostly that person used to spend his life in jail, like Nelson Mandela did. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligations as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. In the beginning, he always placed his obligation towards his family at a higher level as his first priority. But soon, when he started to fulfill his obligations as a human being towards his country, towards his people, and towards his community, he realized that he was prevented from his first obligation, that is towards his family and his near and dear ones. He was not allowed to fulfill his obligations as a son, as a brother, as a father, and as a husband. So he was isolated, he was ripped apart from his family, and he was kept in the prison. I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free, free in every way I could know. Free to run in fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad back slow of moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the customs of my tribe, I was not troubled by laws of man or God. So, so as long as he stayed in his village, loved to be a kid on his own, enjoyed his freedom in and around his village, there was no one who could stop him from doing anything. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion, when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, and I began to hunger for it. And when he became a young man, and when he started fulfilling his duty or his obligation towards his nation, then he realized that it wasn't as easy as it used to be in his village. I wanted freedom only for myself, the transitory freedom of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I chose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedom of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family, but the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful way. So, for him, freedom was basically about having the freedom to choose the book that he wanted to read, the freedom to move about during the night, freedom of marrying, freedom of earning, and freedom of having a family. And it could not should not be obstructed by law at all. But then I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brothers and sisters were not free. I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. So then he realized that the freedom that he was enjoying was not exactly the freedom that he had always wanted. He was not free, his brothers and sisters were not free, and in every walk of life he could feel that his freedom was curtailed or reduced. But the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. This is when I joined African National Congress, and that is when the hunger for my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. So then, soon he realized that his hunger for his own freedom was very less as compared to the freedom for his people. And after that, he joined the African National Congress. It was his desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self respect that animated my life, that transformed a frightened young man to be a bold one, that drew a law abiding attorney to become a criminal, that turned a family loving husband into a man without home, that forced a life loving man to live like a monk. And as soon as he realized that his obligation for his country was far more superior and far more stronger than his obligation for his family, he realized that he was a different person then. He used to be a frightened man, but now he had become bold. And he was an attorney, but now he had become a criminal. He loved his family, his friends, his wife, and now he had become a person without a home, and most important, a person who loved his life, who loved his home, had now become a monk, a person without any home. I am no more virtuous or self sacrificing than the next man, but I found that I could not even enjoy the poor and limited freedom I was allowed when I knew my people were not free. And since he was quite educated, he had got some freedom, but he could not enjoy that freedom because he felt that he could not be free unless his friends, his people, and his countrymen would become free. Freedom is indivisible. The chains on any one of my people were the chains on all of them, and he felt that freedom is not restricted only to a particular person. He felt that if any of his countrymen, any of his black people were not free, then he also felt that he wasn't free at all. The chains of all my people were the chains on me. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. He felt that both the oppressor and the oppressed, they both were human beings. And not only should the oppressed be freed, the oppressor should also be freed from his mindset. A man who takes away another man's freedom is a prisoner of hatred. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow mindedness. He felt that a person who has taken freedom of someone hated himself deep within, and he is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow minded. He has become narrow minded. The oppressor, here, according to Nelson Mandela, is narrow minded because he has taken away the freedom of another person. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is being taken away. So, according to him, a person who is who has taken away someone else's freedom is not free in himself. He is same as the person whose freedom has been taken away. So according to him, the person who has taken away the freedom also has to be liberated. The oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity.